Welcome back to Paper Labyrinths. I'm Brennan.
I'm Nick.
Our guest today is the creator of the action-adventure game Tunic, a game about a little fox in a big world, which won an outstanding achievement for an independent game at DICE, and artistic achievement and debut game at the BAFTAs. Perhaps my nicest friend, Andrew Shouldice. Welcome to the show.
Wow,
that puts me in a
nicest
strong
friend.
position.
Yeah, I think
Holy
so.
smokes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nick. Just swooping in
Dang.
here.
All right.
I mean, I'm still going to keep doing the show with you, Nick. I'm sorry.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's a sunshiny afternoon here in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and it's unseasonably warm amidst a bunch of days that have been quite chilly and dreary.
Our recording that has been cursed with scheduling woes for quite some time, but that's A-okay because it means I can ask you this. Tell me about the rabbits.
Oh,
Tell me
yes,
about the
of
little
course.
bunnies.
Sure. So recently, as sort of a treat, a gift for my partner, we went to a nearby, I guess you'd call it a resort. It's like this seaside lodge called White Point here in Nova Scotia. And at this place, there are a bunch of little bunnies, and I don't think they're wild. Like, they live outside and they eat the grass and they run around, and they're not like imprisoned in any way. But they do seem like they are rabbits from the rabbit store. Do you know what I mean? Not like wild hares.
Okay.
You know, like the beautiful snow white rabbit that's there is probably not going to survive. I don't know what terrible things lurk in the woods of Nova Scotia, honestly. But it's been like that for literally decades. It's sort of one of their calling cards. And they hand out little bags of treats, and you can go out and, feed the rabbits, and they'll come right up to you. And it's really quite lovely.
Awesome. That sounds really nice.
This sounds great.
If they hear the rattling of the bag and you're patient enough, you can accrue sort of like a cluster of, half a dozen little bunnies.
You can live out your Sleeping Beauty fantasies.
Yes.
Very
there are a
easily.
bunch of places like that in Halifax as well. You can get chickadees and even blue jays sometimes to eat out of your hand in some of the parks in Dartmouth.
Wow.
That's fun.
I was going to say, it sounds a little bit like Nara in Japan, where there's just all these deer in the village, and you could just walk right up to them. They'll bow and give you and ask for cookies and stuff like that.
Yeah. The bow is sometimes perfunctory.
Sure.
I was there earlier this year, and sometimes it's like, yeah, I'm bowing. Give me the cookie. Give me the cookie.
Right.
And then if they get mad at you, they'll start like headbutting you a little bit.
Oh,
I have
okay.
seen some video of some truly rude deer in the tourist destination of Nara.
I was going to say with the wildness of it, rabbits certainly know where their bread gets buttered, so to speak.
Sure,
And
yeah.
I enjoy watching videos of wild animals living in very domesticated spaces that are clearly used to humans. I also don't live in that environment, and I'm very glad to, because it seems like a huge pain in the ass.
In the Keys, we have, and not in Key West where I grew up, but in Big Pine Key, it's a protected area for endangered key deer. Key deer is like, imagine American white-tailed deer, but it's about like a third the size. So it's just like a little dog that would come up barely to your waist. And they're protected. But unfortunately, a lot of people live in this endangered species area. So these deer will come into their yards and basically eat every single thing. And because they're protected, these people aren't allowed to do anything about these parasitic animals that are intruding on their space. So there's all these yards where every single tree and every single shrub is wrapped in layer after layer of chicken wire so that deer can't get to them. It's just ridiculous.
It's fun.
That sounds like a challenge for the deer.
Yeah, I was going to say each yard is like a cube zone surrounded by tall fences.
Really, the challenge for them is to breed in such numbers that they are no longer endangered, but also that they grow to the size of regular deer so that their necks can reach over the chicken wire and get to the morsels.
So wait, are they small because they don't they could be larger, but they're not? Is that,
I believe that they are small because they adapted to the small size of the island that they wound up living on. Yeah,
I understand.
Now, I don't think that they can evolve to a larger size over the course of a couple generations, but that'd be really funny to see if it did happen.
Again, wouldn't want to witness that personally. That seems like a huge pain in the ass. Fascinated that it does.
That's what made me think of it, is animals as source of wonder / pain in the ass. We have a similar situation in Key West. I say we. I haven't lived in Key West for, however long, but I still think of it as like, oh, my town, where chickens are loose all over the entire island. But they're, to be clear, chickens are not an endangered species, but they are protected by the government of Key West as a part of the cultural heritage of the island. And so you are not allowed to disturb them or touch them or get rid of them in any way. And in fact, if they are infesting your yard, you have to call special service that is authorized by the local government to relocate them.
Like, like Blade Runners, but for
yes,
wild
exactly.
Chickens.
Yeah. Andrew, I wanted to talk to you not merely about resting and relaxing, but about working on little projects. Because I've been lucky enough to have been working parallel with you on a bunch of different things over the years. And it's always been very gratifying to see the sorts of ways that you organize and conduct yourself and sort of set goals for yourself when you're working on things. And in particular, like in the years since Tunic's release and post-launch support and stuff like that, I wanted to talk to you about some of the stuff that you've been doing and some of the ways that you've been organizing that. And I thought maybe I'd start, we talked about going to the bunny's place with your partner, but the thing that you've been doing lately, at least that I've been witness to, is teaching someone else how to make a video game. What is that like?
It is an excellent tool for putting in stark contrast the difference between making something or doing anything and teaching someone how to do it. Vastly different skills a lot of the time, it seems like, where intuition comes when you've done something for long enough, but being able to deconstruct that intuition into a pedagogy that leads someone along a similar path, right? To have similar knowledge is just very different. You can't just brain dump and hope that it's all in there.
Right.
But it's really gratifying to try and do that. And when you have a sort of common ground to connect over in that way, even if it's just understanding a concept together, it can be really nice.
How do you prioritize? Like, how do you figure out, like, in order to teach you how AI should behave or whatever, this is what you need to do first, and this is what you need to, like, get your head around?
That's a good question. I think it starts with what the project that we'd be working on is.
Sure.
And I don't know, maybe either of you could speak to this as well, your experiences, but design-wise, building something often comes down to like taking a really abstract, wibbly idea that's, like it's a story about, or it's a game where and then condensing that down into like how's the content formatted? If you have a story, like how are you writing that? What's the first character in the text file that tells the computer what to do? How are the behaviors of creatures organized? And that in itself is a skill, it seems like, to take something that is sort of an end result, an experience that a player might have, and try to like chop that up into a little grid and be like, these are the moving parts that need to happen there. Like, have you had experience doing that?
I have run into like the pedagogy thing like really directly, because I realized over the past year, I've been mentoring someone who's a student of game design. And at some point they were like making a really, really small, like little arcade game. And they were like, well, how do I like make this like once you have the like code that does the thing, how do you like make mechanics or something? And I realized like, I don't I don't know, actually. Like, I just didn't have an immediate answer. And it really like struck me how much both the intuition is built over like experience, and or even just like, oh, I'm like looking at how other games work and I do like how that is doing it, or I don't like how that's doing it, so I'm going to do it differently. Or the flip side of it, which is from a like professional point of view, is usually you have a lot of material constraints on what you can do, right? It's like if you sit down to write a story, it's like, well, you can only have like one writer on the team, or there's only like this size of UI that's going to be able to display text, or you you have to have voice acting because, you know, many decisions are made along the way and you have to have voice acting now. And that like really constrains you in useful ways. And, but when you get down to like the very, like you said, like gridding things up and putting something on screen, and how do you choose the numbers that identify it without having years of experience, it's an extremely hard question to answer. And I did sort of come up with an answer in the moment that really, like, thinking back on it, feels like I don't know, just have an idea of how a game should work, and then try it, and then maybe it does or it doesn't, which I feel is such a, you know, circular and an unsatisfying answer. That, yeah, I don't know. It's something I've really thought about, though.
Circular and unsatisfying seems to be like that happens a lot in game development, because it's all about like iteration and understanding the problem. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. For the circular and unsatisfying thing, it's almost like, and this would not be an answer I would like tell someone, because it's not a good answer, but it's like, it almost doesn't matter what your first idea is on anything, because like it's almost certainly going to be bad, even from a like, not from a like, oh, you're just starting out in the thing. Like every first idea for most games is like, well, this is just sort of a stepping stone, or it's structural, or it's just like doing something that you'll eventually replace. And yeah, that is not a good answer to like tell someone how to do when you're teaching, because like they need to actually know what's good or bad. But from a production point of view, it feels less important to get it right on the first try. In my view, anyway, I guess.
Yeah, totally. Like iteration is really key in a lot of ways.
I've had a lot of success with this idea that I've always called it, or I've always heard it called, the idea shotgun, which I think is meant to suggest just sort of like blind firing stuff at the wall or at a target or something like that. And the idea is that you and the group of creatives or whatever sit down and you go, okay, independent of anything else, if you're thinking about this game, describe a specific interaction that the player can do during the game. And so you might say, if you're making a tactics game or something like that, you can say someone sneaks up behind someone and gets a backstab bonus, or someone activates an invisibility cloak, or someone goes up or down a ladder or something like that. And so you start generating like all these expectations of what you think the finished product could be. And once you've got a good sized list, you start categorizing them. You go, okay, well, all of these seem reminiscent of some sort of attack behavior, but these attack behaviors aren't just against moving enemies, but they might also be against inert props. That means we need to make sure we think about props as something that could be targeted, that kind of thing. And from those categories, you'll start to see like, oh, okay, it looks like maybe we have some sort of positionality mechanic. We have some sort of traversal mechanic that is reactive to the environment and that kind of thing. And I've had a lot of success like using that as a way to lead people to go, oh, but I want you to be able to do these things, and then think about like, okay, well, what is the mechanic you need to build in order to do that? But then to plus one, what you were saying, Nick, I think there's so much value in saying like, okay, pick one of those that seems the most interesting or the most important, and just go build it. Build it with the understanding that you're going to get it wrong, that it's going to be a prototype of a prototype, but it's going to be you putting something on screen that wasn't there before, instead of spending a lot of time in paper design and doing documentation or slamming your head against the desk or something like that. There's so much more value in having something on screen to look at and say like, well, it's not that. What could it be instead? Or, oh, it's 50% like that, but we need to do this, this, and this in order to get it to where it needs to go.
Yeah. there's nothing quite like seeing something be wrong to figure out how it needs to be right.
Sure.
Yeah. I think the trouble like what I was having is not even from like a systemic point of view, but it was like tuning or like balancing issues or whatever. And
I don't know shit about that.
That's the one. It's one of those like, they're like, isn't ever a right answer. Not even from a material point of view, you can just kind of do whatever you want. Like there's no constraints in that way. And then from like you're making like a kart racer game. Like, well, how does this work? And it's like, well, you could.
What are the good numbers?
Yeah. That really kind of is like that was the problem, and I found that like really hard to to figure out because there are so many games that are like there's just some good numbers, and maybe those numbers are known and or maybe they're not. Most likely not, because everyone's kind of doing their own thing in their own weird way. And that's it. It's just, it's a very strange intuition to build, I think.
Yeah, I've cultivated a very, very deliberate series of social links with system designers that I can ask questions about good numbers for over the years. That way I don't have to think about them because I'm not good at it and I don't want to think about them.
I need to have more system designer friends, I guess.
I'll invite them on the show.
Okay, yeah, great. That would actually be. I'm going to open up Unity and be like, okay, so this like fade here
welcome to the podcast.
isn't looking too great.
You help me debug this really quick.
Yeah.
Dicey, when you're not teaching, what kind of stuff you've been working on in your own time? I know at one point you were working on some like procedural dungeon type stuff, but I feel like maybe you moved on to some other stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, I have come to find that when you have a commercial project that you've been working on for some number of years, that powers the inertia, like that fuels you to the inevitable conclusion of finishing and putting it out there. But when you're in sort of meander mode, it's really hard to like commit to one particular project. So I've got a few things on the go. Proc Gen Dungeons, always going to love that. I've been playing. I've been working on a card game in Love 2D, which has been a lot of fun. I've been playing the game La Mulana and finished it, and now I'm working on La Mulana 2 and streaming it. And while streaming, I'm mapping out every single room of the game.
Yeah.
And all of the like sort of esoteric connections and order of operations that you need to do in order to solve the game. And that's been really fun, and it's inspired me. Like maybe I'll make a La Mulana game that I've got a couple of good ideas for, and it's partially implemented in monogame. And at some point I'll get back to that as well. But actually, Brendan, I know you like tabletop role-playing games, and I've been recently infatuated with this sort of OSR game called Shadow Dark, which is a sort of old school style, Dungeons and Dragons type thing, but with modern sensibilities. And one of the cool things that it has is this focus on illumination. And one of the core mechanics is that a torch lasts for 1 hour of real time.
Oh, sure.
Which means that, really keeps things moving quickly because the real world clock is ticking whenever you're, sitting around and deciding if you should go left or right or whatever.
That rules.
And one of the things that I've been working on to support that, like I don't actually play tabletop role-playing games. That's not true. I do, but the idea of being excited about this thing and actually playing it are different things.
I think I owe you an adventure, actually.
Oh, really?
I think I said, "Hey, Kate and Dicey, let's play something else sometime soon."
We
played. What did we play last? We played. Was that Count of Monte Cristo thing?
Yeah, was it? It's not For the Queen. No, it was something like that. It was like but bickering royals. I remember that was fun.
It's a good game.
Yeah, that was good. The project that I'm working on is this sort of cartography app, I guess you call it. It's not really that. It's like a video game sort of thing that's meant to be used by like the referee of a tabletop game that has line of sight and tokens that can be given perception or light sources or whatever. Sort of like, what if What if you decided that every VTT that's ever been made, virtual tabletop, is miserable and bad, and you just said, you throw your hands in the air and say, I'll make my own.
What could have led you to that conclusion?
I was going to say, it seems like a very easy conclusion to have arrived to.
So I decided to make my own. And the really silly part of it, and this is unnecessarily technical, I'll keep it short, is that I don't know how to make apps with multiple windows. And so the idea that, hey, the GM, the referee of this game, has one view and the players have another view. And how do you reconcile those two things? I don't want to build a web app, right? This is for at table sort of thing, like projected onto a tabletop or on a screen or something like that. So the really silly answer to that question is that everything the GM is allowed to see is in green or red, and everything that the players are allowed to see is in blue. You just put a filter over it in like OBS or whatever, like pre-projector or pre-screen, and it's working, and it's magical every time I see it.
That's so good.
I'll have to show it to you sometime, but it's really a lot of fun. It's
I would love
silly.
to see that.
Yeah.
No, that's not silly at all. That's such a good
It's my favorite kind of constraint, which is like, I don't want to do that, and I would really rather not learn how to do it. And so by God, I'm going to fucking dig through this mountain instead of walking over it. And yeah.
But there's something so pleasant about the echo of like, no, the torch is burning in real time. Like the view of this being affected by like a real world color, so to speak, is really, really like consonant. I really enjoy that. That's really cool. I can't wait to see that.
Fantastic. Segueing maybe a little bit, actually.
Please. Yeah.
Speaking of constraints, I've also been messing around with Pico 8 a bunch recently, which is just a huge pile of fun. There's a game jam going on right now called Pico Steve-Mo, which is you make a game in Pico 8 over the course of November with the theme of Stephen King, and it's been going on for a few years now.
Fun.
And Pico Steve-Mo the theme is always the works of Stephen King, and that's been.
There's not that many to choose from. There's probably a lot of overlap in ideas there.
Yeah.
All right, let's name all the Stephen King books. There's Clown.
Yeah. Railroad.
Alternate reality.
Railroad. What did you say, Nick?
Alternate reality.
Alternate reality. Scary House.
Maine.
Yeah. Scary House.
Yeah. So what are you doing for Pico Steve-Mo this month?
Well, I don't know much about Stephen King, although it's the sort of thing, Stephen King, it turns out that you know more than you think you do, because Shawshank Redemption apparently is a Stephen King story. I didn't know that. But we're going to do, Kate and I are working on it, and we've got a sort of a collage of a bunch of different stuff. It's not, we don't know enough about Stephen King, but we did look up the Wikipedia page for King Stephen, who is a medieval king, and so now we're making a Reigns-like game where people are coming to you, and you might recognize some characters and concepts from some Stephen King works.
That's very
these people that come to you. We're butting right up against that character limit. Turns out making a text-heavy game in Pico 8 consumes your character limit quite a bit. So
I can think of a couple English letters that I think would be very difficult to render in those dimensions.
Yeah, M is a real tricky one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, those are the projects that I've been working on.
That's
what about
good.
you?
Gosh, what I wanted to ask immediately when you said like working on something for so long is, if you have the experience of having worked on something for a very long time and in the middle of it thinking, okay, well, the next thing I do is absolutely going to be X. And then when you finally finish the project, looking at X and going, there's no way I could start doing that right now. Absolutely not. Even though that's what I desperately wanted to be doing all the time that I was making that. I've got to put that somewhere else while I take a nap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I mean, I was pretty strict with myself. Like, don't even think about side projects.
Sure.
Don't even think about what's next while you're working on this thing. Otherwise, you'll get terribly distracted.
Mm-hmm.
It was busy enough that was not too hard to do. But yeah, I think the thing that I wanted to do was something small, and that has been largely the case. I've been working on smaller things, and if it becomes too big, then it's like, no, this is not quite right. But But yeah, it's the gnaw to make something and have it be, meaningful. The add-on to that seems to happen is that if it's meaningful, it has to be big. Which is obviously not true, but it's an insidious a thought that sometimes, burrows its way into you.
I've really appreciated. Here's a very specific way that you've improved my work experience, which is that I started using the Pomodoro technique after seeing you do that. That's a technique where you're setting a timer for 25 minutes. Is that right? Of
Traditionally,
work.
yeah.
25 minutes, and then you take a 5-minute break, and then you take a longer break after a series of those. And not only did that really help, particularly with podcast editing when I was doing the actual play week after week after week, figuring out okay, it takes me this amount of time consistently in order to do this work, which means I have to set aside this much time and also this much energy in order to do those things. I have really come to grips with the fact that I like being busy all the time, but I cannot be busy all the time and expect everything that I create to be of equivalent level of quality. And so if I want to work on something and have it turn out the way that I'm going to be happy with it, then I've got to budget my time. And using that particular timer technique really gave me a lot of insights into, it takes me this much time in order to do X task. Although it also taught me, I'm getting faster at this. I'm getting better at this with repetition. And so that was affirming and helped, fuel the fire to continue going on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think there are a bunch of benefits to that method, and the least useful, I think, is taking the breaks every 25 minutes, because you got to fine tune that number for your own personal style and the type of work that you're doing.
Right.
Sometimes that's not quite enough time, especially in programming where you need to get into a flow state or whatever.
Sure.
But you're right. The nearly, somewhat surprisingly, the top of the list is just knowing how long things take to do is really illuminating sometimes.
It's another impossible skill to teach, really.
Oh, right.
Because it's something that I don't think anyone has 100% hit rate on ever, really. At least in our field, I suppose, right? I still have tasks that are this should be an hour and it's 2 days, and then vice versa. And I see something so a theme I think I detected in all your side projects seems to be mapping or cartography or geography. Does that tickle your brain in the way that it just leaks in everything you're doing, or
it kind of seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So the project before this, Tunic is an isometric game in that it's very strictly has an orthographic camera that, parallel lines are going to be parallel in the view, which means that because there's no foreshortening that you get from a perspective projection, the whole world is kind of a map. You're just sort of panning around what could be a static image. It's rendered in 3D and there are camera moves and everything. But I think that sort of that feeling of exploring a space by moving your eyes over the, exploded diagram of a castle or a boat in a book that you had as a kid. That sort of that sort of illustration. I think that sort of thing is really neat. It's a fun way to explore space.
Those books that had the cutaway slice of here's the castle and you can see inside, and here's the people in the kitchen, and here's the people in the hallway and stuff like that. You can definitely see a lot of that in the level construction of Tunic.
And they're because it's got, there's this manual in it, and it's got pages that you find, and a lot of them have maps on it. A lot of those were made by zooming the camera way out, taking a screenshot, and then tracing over it.
Okay.
That was, I think maybe that's where it came from. I was like, man, this is fun. I want to make more maps. And so now a bunch of side projects have to do with maps. Even the card game has a map. Now that you mentioned it, Nick.
I was going to say, yeah.
You're right.
Everything you just said has maps involved in some way. And then procedural dungeon design is the like, well, how can I make a set of rules that outputs different but consistently interesting maps or divisions of spaces in some way that you then do things inside and have like relations to one another.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Delicious. There's something, just like, I don't know, intoxicating about looking at like a little, like a grid with a bunch of little rooms, little doors, and who lives here? What are they doing?
Yeah.
What's this room used for?
I mean, I literally right before we were playing have dived right back into Dwarf Fortress, which is literally just like that, where I'm like,
yeah, you get to say what the rooms do.
I mean, I kind of do. I get to say, like, I would really, really like if you use this as the workshop. Now, most times someone uses as a workshop, and sometimes someone says, I'm in a fey mood, I'm absolutely going to use this sort of workshop. And generally, this particular fort seems to be doing really well. But a couple of people have gone, in the game's terms, stark raving mad, have turned off all of their clothes and have exploded into blood somewhere in the workshop or something like that. So I don't know if the workshop is haunted or the mountain that I dug into was haunted, or there's something else like in the plump helmet wine that I'm brewing.
I mean, you can get literal ghosts showing up, and then you'll know for certain.
The other problem is that I do have a ghost. My fisherman.
Oh yeah, you're haunted then.
Seems to be haunted. So I have 3 problems that I'm dealing with right now. I have the Welcome to Dwarf Fortress talk. This is our they gave me the name of it. What's a better name for a Dwarf Fortress podcast? Pod Fortress, thank you. Welcome to Pod Fortress. So in the middle, the dwarves are going crazy. In the bottom, there are troglodytes. And so I'm trying to wall off all of my caverns. And then in the very top, up in the one river that runs through the mountain, my fisher dwarf did die and is haunting everyone. So the thing that I'm trying to do right now is I'm walling off the caverns so that nothing can get in. But also I have to dig some tombs. And so right underneath where all my farming is, I'm digging a bunch of tombs so that I can hopefully bury these ghosts so that they'll stop haunting everyone. Maybe.
Is that what they're hoping for?
I don't know. I've not established communications with the ghosts yet. Nor do I actually know why everyone's going crazy. So that might be a third order problem to deal with a little bit further along.
It's a pretty consistent Dwarf Fortress result of ghosts and fey moods.
Yeah. I had started another fortress right before this one that was very, very promising, except there was one bird outside that would just peck everyone in the head. And it wouldn't deal any damage, but it would interrupt all of their tasks. And I had to just stop and restart because I got notifications every single frame that this damn bird was attacking every single one of my initial 7 dwarves. It was absolutely bothersome.
Imagine how bad it felt for them to...
I kind of, if they were selected for the initial settlement of this new fortress, I would have liked to have think that they would have gone through some sort of, boy, I'm talking a lot about Dwarf Fortress here. That they would have at least had some sort of rigor to like, hey, if you're going to establish this new dwarf colony, you might get pecked by a bird. Is that okay? Yeah, sure, that's fine. They didn't ask. I mean, they should ask.
If you had to ask if you're getting the form, Brad, where you're about to step onto the
stone
cart,
slate, you have to check yes or no.
And then it's like, if they had to enumerate every theoretical problem that you'd have to be okay with, it'd be like 500 pages long. So you're just scrolling to the bottom and then just hitting, yeah, I'm good, accept all. And then you show up and you're like, oh, right, this fish is in this river and it's pulling me into the river because it's such a strong fish. I mean, I didn't think this was going to be an issue, but it was on page 499. So.
I'm okay with saying, no, I'm not okay with big fish. No, I'm not okay with centaurs. No, I'm not okay with the ravening undead. But a bird just sort of being like, I'm doing a motion on the camera of a bird hitting my forehead.
Do you need to, can you build a helmet factory? Is that going to solve this problem?
Not this early.
No.
You can show up with helmets, but I don't think the helmet would actually interrupt. I would be pretty. I'm pretty confident saying, even in not in real life, but in speaking in game terms of Dwarf Fortress, getting pecked would still interrupt you regardless of the helmet.
I'd
but
rather
also
have
in
the,
real life.
I'd rather have the ghosts, if I'm perfectly honest. Well, thanks for
You
coming
know,
on
a
my
lot more
podcast.
melancholy moods. Great.
Well, here's something that I wanted to follow up with, Andrew, because both you and Nick, I think, have an appreciation for the relationship between the video game and the manual.
Yeah,
Nick, you've been working on the manual for Amber Spire, is that correct?
I am. It's not, the window's not open in front of me, but yes, it is. I am working on it.
How's that going?
It's going good. The manuals, I feel like the Tunic manual and my manual are like cousins in purpose and style. And
Yeah,
that,
for sure.
this is going to sound very mean, but my
It'd be
manual
weird if
is
your manual was exactly like the Tunic manual. That'd be weird.
yeah. Like this sounds way, like weirdly mean, but like my manual is more like literally just to play the game and not. The Tunic manual is like a very sizable direct text element of the game. It is not something that I think if you ignore the Tunic manual, you would be missing out on a large part of what is the experience of Tunic. Whereas with the Banished Vault and Emberspire, you definitely should look at the manual because there's a lot of like very good information in there, but it is not. It is a bit more like secondary text or like 1.5 steps removed. So like my manuals are, I mean, it is like just a reference book. Like I am laying them out and thinking of them in a very straightforward way. The graphic design and the like flow of information is very almost exclusively like someone is playing the game and needs to look up information or is confused and needs to be directly told what to do. So they can go back to the game and then like resume playing it, whatever. But I mean, Andrew, you tell me, like, is that where in your head is the like reference side of things to the primary text side of things? Where's that line?
For the manual in Tunic specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was hearing you talk about, first of all, yeah, Amber Spire looks extremely cool. This is very beautiful. I'm thinking like, oh wow, it's a manual that only needs to tell someone what to do.
Exactly.
What a luxury. And then I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
no. This is actually much harder. It actually needs to be a functional document that teaches people things. There's maybe a handful of times in Tunic where you need to learn something specific. Maybe more than a handful, but a lot of it is optional, right? There's maybe a few key moments where in order to progress, you really need to have this technique or piece of information or whatever. And the rest of it, the large challenge building it was the like doing the layout part of it, like the physicality of it, like, oh, this needs to be in the middle. And if we want to insert a page here, then you need to insert pages on the other side because it's, like two sides of a single sheet of paper or whatever. So there was challenge there, but yeah, mostly it exists as a, I've used this play on words a few times. It is less textual and more textural in that it's just meant to provide like a little bit of flavor to the world, make you feel like you're in this mysterious place where you don't belong. So there's a lot of wiggle room there where you can, having written like tutorial stuff before, I know it's extremely hard to get people to read things in video games. Mm-hmm. And so building an actual manual where you have a real responsibility to communicate information to someone sounds like it would be a real challenge.
It was a challenge. The solution to that is as simple as it was brute force, which is you can't do the tutorial without the manual in the Banished Vault. Like when you load it up and you go to tutorial, it just loads up like the tutorial scene with nothing but look at the manual to give you the steps to do the tutorial. And the whole thinking behind that was to get people to open the manual at least once and then like flip through pages and just see what's like, and it was down to like, hey, here's how the like voice of the manual is written. It's very clean. It's very simple. It's just like my voice. It's not like there's like lore and stuff in there, but it's not doing Because I think people sometimes think of like game manual and they imagine Twilight Struggle, edition 9.0 whatever, and it's like crazy.
Welcome,
like,
traveler, to the stage of history.
Yeah, it's here's rule 2.5.4, caveat to rule 2.3. And so, getting people like, it's not going to be that, it's not going to be crazy. There's a couple of paragraphs per page. And it did work, mostly because also the game kind of sets you up to get stepped on a lot. so people are like, oh, okay. This thing like, it's here to help you. Like, there's no tricks in the manual. There's nothing. It's like, the manual wants you to succeed in a way.
Maybe more so than the game does.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. But I would think, like, to me, the Tunic manual feels like a different annoying thing to do, which is like, it becomes its own, it becomes like a puzzle. Like, Tunic has a lot of puzzles, a lot of like, oh, I see. Like, if I, you do these things in this order, you go here after you've done something else, whatever. But then the manual, it's not so much a world with different little spokes, and then that's all. You can kind of figure it out. The manual feels like it kind of cuts through a lot of those things. And so if you have, it feels like there's a second solution to every puzzle, which is like sort of having the manual. If you have the manual page and then you can arrive at this puzzle, that could give you an additional solution, and not in like a hint way, but in like another thing to solve with, like obviously the language and whatever. But that is that, I don't know, is that how you think of it?
Yeah, I think so. It's one of the core principles of the game is to sort of try to not fall into a comfortable pattern. In some ways, it's about, games of times past where you're just a little guy with a sword going on an adventure. But I spent a lot of time trying to break the symmetries that you get from, like, there are 6 dungeons and each one of them has a boss and a MacGuffin, and you get the thing and you get the item and you put them all together and you fight the boss and you're done. So instead, structurally, it doesn't have quite a nice, clean, tidy, like spoke system like you were mentioning. It's got a sort of, inconsistent and rough spatial structure. And as far as the manual goes and how it can be used to solve puzzles or give you an edge, it feels like it's a bit of a cheat in some ways, because a tooltip that says, here's how you beat the boss, or, hey, do you have this special item? It's over here, blinking red arrow. Like, all of that is stuff that could exist in a game and has a very different feel compared to, I found this strange document. And I, the player, pored over it to see if there was anything interesting there. And I found something. And amidst all of this unreadable glyph text, I found some words. And it's very hard to get players to read something in a game. And so if they can treasure a piece of information that's going to help them in some way, then I hope that makes them more likely to, A, treasure these items, and B, actually get information out of them.
This was something go ahead.
I was going to say the magic trick of getting players to read, being very sparingly having English text in the book is a good one.
What we ran into just completely face first was, especially in a strategy game, but I think to every game this applies to some degree or another, you do just need to directly tell people certain things. Like, there are very, very, very few games that slowly immerse the player in like a gentle pool of knowledge where they never feel like they learn anything until they do. There's like just a lot of just, this is how you do this thing in this game to achieve this goal. And then the player gets past that, then they can start like interacting with systems and having a fun time with it. And strategy games have this, the worst, and because like, especially with the Banished Vault, which is essentially a board game, the board game, obviously, like everyone understands, you have to just read how to operate the game to then play the game. And that's something, like a lot of games will resolve with red arrows and tooltips and so on. And that's fine. I'm not like mad about that solution or anything. But I feel like players think that like we've seen the yellow paint discourse every year at this point, or every 6 months at this point, where players like, and I think I'm guilty of this too. Like no one wants to read, but you do need to know what to do. And then you get really upset when you don't know what to do. But then but sometimes like, I'll see this, like, I'll get some tooltip information. I'll read it and I'm like, okay, I really wish I could have learned this in a different way because it would have been more effective or whatever. And then designers just get real up there over their skis with like Mario 1-1. And I don't have to go down that road because I'll just rant. But I am not as big necessarily as big a fan of the principles of Mario 1-1 as a lot of other people.
Fair.
I'm curious to hear this rant at some point.
Yeah.
I'll do it offline most because I just don't want coworkers and random people to go be like, all right, look, we're gonna have a talk now.
Yeah, I'm going through a lot of this on my own project, and I'm very keen. It's been an interesting experience to sort of divvy up, like, here are the verbs that I absolutely have to make sure the player knows before I let them leave this room. And here are the things that they should learn before the level is over. And here are the things that they can learn organically along the way. And figuring out those three buckets of like priority and requirement have been a real interesting bit of choreography to manage, of like, how much do I teach, in what amount, how many instructions will the player accept before they feel like they're just completely on rails and they think this game isn't for me, it's completely on rails. I had the negative experience of just yesterday, actually, I started playing Dwarf Fortress because I had picked up Europa Universalis 5 and thought, you know what? I'm going to finally try an EU game. This
the hardest, the largest and most complicated one by a huge margin.
I'm not good at CK3, but I have figured out how to play it. And I thought, okay, maybe it's finally time to go ahead and step up. I'm not, I don't get along with Civ 7, unfortunately. So I've been looking for something to fill that gap. And I loaded it up and I spent like 20 minutes going through the tutorial of like, here's where you get income, and here's where how you build roads, and here's how you deal with supply and demand of your different provinces and stuff like that. And all of that seemed like it was important, but it didn't teach me what I needed to do in order to start playing the game. It was all just sort of like back matter. And on top of that, it was doing that using a bunch of menus that it was having to like point me to this little button on an interface that looks like a spaceship console. There's like 18 different things to flip.
It's an airplane cockpit.
Exactly.
Of a
yeah.
UI,
yeah.
for sure.
And it's like, okay, I'm gonna go click that, but I'm getting overwhelmed just by the presentation of all of the information I'm being expected to, like, in the first 5 minutes of the game, come to grips with. And I was like, I'd rather deal with birds and ghosts right now. Thank you.
One thing that I think bridges Paradox Games, The Banished Vault, and Tunic in teaching people how to play is, in my experience, the best way to learn to play a game is to sit on a couch with someone, virtually or physically, and just have them go, oh, hey, do this now, or just like shut up and let you figure something out or whatever. I learned Crusader Kings 2 by watching streams of people playing it. I think they were Idle Thumbs streams. And you're watching someone play Crusader Kings with this, airplane cockpit of a UI. And then you go, oh, I see. There's one little button here that every 5 minutes they press, and that opens up a really important piece of UI. And then they do things. And then, oh, I see. They, 2 hours into this play, they've only just opened this screen once for the first time, and it doesn't seem very important. And you get that kind of like heat map of watching someone click on the 12 important buttons, and then there's 30 important or 30 next important buttons. For the Banished Vault, the tone of the manual was in the first opening pages, we iterated a lot on like, what would I, Nick, say to you if you were learning this game for the first time? And it's like, okay, I do this information and then this information and doing that. And Tunic also feels like someone doing that to you, but in a way that's like a more mischievous friend who's like giving you little like secrets and tidbits and like, oh, well, have you tried? I see you're having trouble with this. Have you tried, pressing this one button in this one context? And ooh, isn't that fun? But it's a similar kind of thing of like, it has, there's a bit more of like a personality to it, or I'm not exactly sure like the humanness of the common thread between these three things.
Yeah, in Tunic, there was occasionally a temptation to have like a contextual hint. Like maybe if you long press the manual button, it opens to a random page, but it's actually the page that we've detected is the one that you really need to see.
Right. Yeah.
But decided against that because A, it sounds hard, and B, it ended up actually implementing quite something over-engineered system for the PlayStation 5 release, where they've got like a built-in hint system. Like tracking progress. I mean, that was the whole thing. Anyway, but it decided against that because A, it's hard, and B, it's sort of I don't know. It sort of tramples all over this idea that it's the document is ambivalent to you, and you need to be the person that actually goes through it. But Nick, based on what you were saying about like getting tutorialized by some external media, makes me wonder, like, why don't we see tutorials that are like video based a lot of the time? Like I feel like there's just this understanding that, oh, you've got to it's what is it? It's don't show, don't tell, and in games it's do, don't show, or something like that. Sure. And so we've got this idea. It's like, no, the player needs to press the button to open the menu so they really understand it. But I'm not 100% convinced that is.
I'm not convinced of that either.
Yeah, because if something on a screen says like, this shows you how many Flibberty gibbets you have, and those can be converted into prestige tokens, and I'm like, yeah. Which is the button that makes this go away? You know what I mean? And I can't internalize that a lot of the time. But yeah, maybe some sort of video of someone just being like, "This is how you play the game."
I mean, this is a huge thing in board games now, or has been for probably like a decade or several years at least. Of you can, like, for basically any popular game, you can just type in rules video plus game name and get a 5 to 45 minute long video, or in some games that I'm trying to get people to play with me, 2 hours long, like, here's how you play this game. And I don't know, I think to some degree, well, the other side of the like, oh, the player must press the button, is video games desperately want you to stay in the game, to like a bizarre degree. Yeah. So there's that element to it. But even setting that aside, I think people, it's hard because people learn it in very different ways, not even in just like the visual, like writing, not in the like, oh, I need to see something, or I need to do it, or I need to write it down type of learning style, but in, when you're talking about the like contextual rules page of Tunic, when I'm playing Tunic, my brain is in kind of like 4 different places in the like, well, I'm like right here, I'm swinging my sword at something, but I'm also like, well, what was the path that went here? Is that where I needed to go? And then it's like, oh, but I also need to get, an upgrade, and I think I saw one there. And so it's really hard to nail down, well, what's the right rulebook page to open? And I think the rules video, even for like a really simple game, would probably be very long. And then you run into the other problem of like, well, you want people to play the game as soon as possible and like enjoy it and not be given homework, which is definitely the issue we were trying to get around. So yeah, no, I think it's a good solution, but I don't I don't know if it would,
This-
how well it would work.
This is the same problem in some ways, I think, as the experiential, like how to make a video game problem, right? Of like, you have all these different priorities and figuring out which one of these is your highest priority and how to sort those and how to compartmentalize that action or do it the most efficiently. Like if I know, oh, I could go explore this map and get this upgrade at the same time, that would be the greatest efficiency of action. So I should go do that. That kind of thing is like so experiential. You know that from playing games of that type or the same game repeatedly, right? It's a very difficult thing, I think, to teach.
Yeah. Oh, and then it's like so many, you know, Tunic is obviously in a lineage of many other games. And it's like, well, how far down do you teach someone that there's a secret behind a waterfall? Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, like, you know, like,
or do you buck that expectation because they're looking for that? You know what I mean?
Right. I think games like to do a lot of visual communication of like, well, bigger enemy is stronger or whatever, and bigger sword swings slower. But that is not like, you know, we're not born with that with that information necessarily, right? So it's where you draw the line becomes a really interesting question that I don't know if I want to solve because it seems really hard.
Well, if anyone has the answer, please speak up.
Call in now.
Yeah.
Lines are open.
Yeah. Please email MatthewGustile.
That's right.
gmail.com.
Dicey, do you have anything you want to plug before we say goodbye?
Anything that I want to plug? Maps, yeah. Just
as a general idea.
Yeah.
I have found myself writing a TTRPG, and I'm having a lot of fun with telling people make a map, but it almost certainly cannot make physical sense, and that's your problem to deal with and not mine. And it's been good. It's worked out once so far. So
wait, the task is make a map that can't exist? Or?
No, sorry. As part of playing the game, you're exploring a space, you're doing TTRPG things. A map will be created, as in like the space is randomly generated. Make a map, but by virtue of the random generation, it probably can't make sense.
Right. Okay.
And have fun with that. You know, go figure that out yourselves, kind of thing.
Like,
absolutely.
It's on a space station, right?
Yes.
So you're talking about like airlock goes to living room, goes to
I just mean like you couldn't that, and also if you were trying to grid this map out, the spaces could not like
sure
fit in Euclidean space.
Well, that's good for the tone of the game you're making.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having fun with it.
Or things should be less Euclidean IMO.
Well, do you have anything to actually plug?
No, maps is good. I guess Pico 8, making games. I don't have anything to... you know what? Actually, yes, I do.
Yeah, when your plug. Pico 8 game comes out, where can people find it?
I assume on Pico Steve Moo will have some sort of collection. I think there's like a what do you call it? Like a jam grouping on Edge.
Okay, yeah.
But also the fine folks at Lost in Cult have working together with me and author Christian Donlan are making a book about the development of Tunic, and it's got a lot of like notebook scans and to-do lists, and sort of Christian is analyzing the areas of the game and the concepts in there, and it should be pretty cool. And I think you could find that at lostincult.co.uk/Tunic.
That's awesome.
On sale now for pre-order.
Way to
Wonderful.
Go.
Thank you so much for coming and hanging out.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you.